What is up, New York Giants fans? Thank you for tuning in to this very special victory edition of Tommy's Takes. I'm your host, Tommy G. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell, turn notifications on. Make sure you're the first to check out the videos as soon as they drop. Check me out on Twitter at TommyG105. Always dropping Giants content, live tweeting during games, whatever it is to get content out to you guys and gals. Please do check out Giants Country YouTube, Giants Country Twitter. The team over at Giants Country always doing great things, pumping out content at a high rate for everybody. Thank you for all the support so far up to this point. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Your New York Football Giants are 4-1, the best record they have had since 2009. And they have matched their win total from last season in just 5 weeks. What a remarkable turnaround for this team. I mean, all the talk in the preseason and in the offseason was rebuild. And rightfully so. That's where this team is at. They're still in their rebuilding phase. But wow, just speechless today at this game. Coaching, phenomenal across the board. Kafka, Abel, Wink Martindale. You've seen in the second half when the adjustments were made. You've seen the team come out in the second half with a different attitude, different swagger. They scored right before the half. Yes, they gave up a field goal right after too, but they scored right before the half. That score right before the first half ended was to me a statement score saying, hey, it's been a rough first half, but we're not getting blown out of here today. This is not your daddy's New York Giants. That's going to be a 31-14 type of game. So this was just, to me, you had to win against the Titans, which was a great win, in my opinion. Opening day in Tennessee against a solid perennial playoff team in the Titans. They didn't play well a couple weeks after that, so people were kind of looking at that win like, okay, whatever. Then beat the Panthers. Panthers have been a struggling team. Lose to the Cowboys, in which was a rough game, even though a couple plays here and there in that Dallas game, and this Giants team could be 5-0. But whatever, it's not. Play the Bears at home the next week, final of 3 straight home games. Messy game, not a lot of offense. Giants win. You come into London, which was essentially a road game. I mean, it was a road game on paper, and it was a road game in the stadium. Green Bay fans all over in London. It was crazy. When the Giants took the field, they got booed. When they were on offense, the crowd was loud. So it was ridiculous. But you come into London, road game versus a tough team, tough quarterback. First real hard matchup versus an elite quarterback you've had this season. And what do? You start getting blown out in the first half, pump the brakes, you score right before the first half, and you come out in the second half on a mission. This Giants football team shut the Packers out in the second half with missing Leonard Williams, with missing Aaron Robinson, with Jalen Smith starting at inside linebacker, who was just picked up a couple of weeks ago. This here speaks to coaching. And this shows you how bad the coaching was for this Giants football team the last 4 or 5 years. Remarkable job by the coaching staff. I can't say enough. Let's get into the game. Sloppy start. Wasn't the start the Giants had wanted to get. Both teams come in 3-1. Giants were a almost 9-point underdog. That reflects and shows you how big of an upset this was against Green Bay. And Leo downgraded from questionable to out right before the game. So some tough injury news on top of tough injury news on top of tough injury news. That was a tough one because the Packers want to run the ball, and they've had trouble running the ball. So that plays into the strategy, which team can get the lead and run the ball more. Both these teams' strength were running the ball coming in. Despite missing several key players, though, despite a rough start to the first half, and it was rough, Packers took a 10-3 lead. They were up 17-3 in the middle of the second quarter, 20-10 to end the half. But to me, like I said, that touchdown the Giants scored right before the end of the first half was huge because everything was against the Giants at that point. Penalties were getting called against them. Penalties were being missed against them. They still had some injuries that were popping up. It seemed like, every 15 minutes, Mark Sanchez was like, there's another Giant down. There's another Giant down. And Rodgers was having his way. Not a lot of pressure by the Giants front. And I said on the last show, if you want to beat Aaron Rodgers, you got to get pressure with the front four. Can you blitz? Absolutely. But you can't blitz with regularity because he's going to get right on it. He's going to diagnose that, and he's going to pick it apart. You have to pick your spots when it comes to blitzing. And in that first half, the Giants just couldn't get pressure with the front four. And that led to Rodgers basically doing whatever he wanted. But that score by the Giants, and even though the Packers scored right after that, in which seemed like a matter of seconds, that to me showed me this Giants team was different from the past 4 or 5 years. And second half comes around, and that's when Jones and Barkley turned it on. Jones on the bad ankle, Barkley resilient, gets hurt, comes back in the game, has the beautiful ankle breaking play, 40 yards up the left sideline. Really remarkable. Hotspur Stadium in North London was awesome today. The crowd was great. It seemed like everybody was into it. And that second half was one for the ages for this New York Giants football team. And I want to give a big shout out to Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones, obviously, a lot has been said about him. We'll leave it at that. Whether you like him, you don't like him, you think he's the future, he's not the future, you're not sure. One thing about Daniel Jones is this has to be one of the toughest players I have ever seen. Comes in on a bum ankle. One point during the game, his hand is gushing blood, bleeding, loses Barkley at one point, and nothing fazed him. And Jones' toughness was on full display with the Giants down 20-13 late in the third. Barkley on the first play of the drive, which turns out to be a 91-yard drive. First play of the drive, Barkley catches a short pass, and what happens? Gets hit, gets his shoulder drilled down into the ground, and Barkley comes out, goes into the tent, and when he comes back out, they take the helmet from him. So it's looking like Barkley's not there, looking like he's not going to come back. And what does Daniel Jones do? 15-play, 91-yard drive to tie the game. To me, the first drive, the touchdown drive to end the first half, was important to keep him in the game. This drive, though, was a statement to the Packers saying, hey, not only are we here to play, we're here to win this game. And Daniel Jones basically did it all by himself on that drive. Really remarkable. Much kudos to him. And, on a bum ankle, couldn't really run the ball today too well. Had trouble running it when they did have some design runs for him, but gave the Giants the ball right back after. The defense played right after that Jones touchdown. Defense gets 3 and out. Shout out to the defense in the second half, shutting the Packers out. Extremely difficult to shut Aaron Rodgers out in an entire half, let alone the second half in a tie game. Unbelievable. They get the ball right back. And what happens? Saquon with the catch and run on a short drag, takes it 40 yards up the left sidelines, almost scores. Really remarkable, unbelievable defense to get the ball back. And then to it's just, when you watch good football, you see the three levels, and they play in unison and they work off of each other. Doesn't matter how good your offense is if your defense is not good enough. Doesn't matter how good either are if your special teams is blowing games. Seeing the Giants special teams blow games before, right? So what happens? Barkley almost scores on the 40-yarder. Giants bring out some wildcat, some trickeration. Barkley scores. 6 minutes left. The New York Giants have the lead. And that was it. Honestly, the defense held up. Stopped the Packers on a 4th and 1. The Packers had it inside the 6-yard line. I'm sure Giants fans were saying, uh-oh, here we go. They're going to break our hearts again. But it wasn't to be had. Defense got to Rodgers. He did get one more try at a Hail Mary, but unsuccessful. Couldn't even get the ball in the air. I'm sure when he was back there for that Hail Mary, Giants fans had bad memories of the playoff game where he completed that Hail Mary for a touchdown right before the half. So wasn't to be had. The New York Giants come away with a victory, 4-1. You can't say enough about this team. A lot of teams and players, coaches talk about next man up, next man up, next man up. Well, not only do the Giants invoke next man up, they're doing it at a high level, and this speaks to coaching. What does next man up mean? It means the backup comes in and plays almost as good as the starter, good enough to execute the game plan, and the coaches impact that, and the GM, Joe Shane, impacts that by the players he brings in, right? You're picking up guys off the streets, basically. Jalen Smith, you pick up, you got Johnson, the wide receiver, basically, second string receiver this game. He was just picked up. So remarkable coaching, remarkable general management job by Joe Shane. And that's how next man up comes alive. And this Giants team just defeated Green Bay, missing their top 4 receivers, missing Leonard Williams, missing Aaron Robinson, the second string cornerback, guys dropping during the game. Adoree Jackson gets hurt during the game. DJ Davison gets hurt during the game. Barkley gets hurt during the game. And this team is just unfazed. Nothing phases them. Somebody goes down. All right, next man up. touchdown drive. Barkley goes down. All right, DJ, you got this. You're missing 4 receivers. You're missing your star MVP running back. Go get this touchdown. And that's what he did. And that's what the team does. And it's a scary team for other teams to face. If you're a good team in the NFL right now, you do not want to face this New York Giants team because, knock on wood, hopefully they get healthier. It looks like next week they're going to get Wan'Dale Robinson back. They're going to get Leonard Williams back. That's what you hope. And if this team's 4-1 with all these players out, they're just going to get better when they get healthier. And that's scary. And, if you're the Eagles and you're the Cowboys, you're watching this game like, holy cow, what's going on here? Because everyone expected the Giants to have a tough year. Everybody's picks at the beginning of the season didn't expect the Giants to beat Tennessee, didn't expect the Giants to beat Green Bay today, and they did. And it's remarkable. And it's all the foundation of the sport. Like I said, coaching, finding the right coach that players have a belief in, finding a GM that has the right strategy, the right philosophy. And finally, and this is frustrating because a huge reason this Giants team has struggled is because of poor upper management and staggering and tiering their leadership. Firing the GM, keeping the head coach, firing the GM. Nobody's on the same page. This guy has this philosophy. This guy has this philosophy. This guy wants this player. This guy wants a. Finally, New York Giants fans, you have a GM and a head coach on the same page. And look what they're doing. They're bringing the right players in for the system. They're bringing players in that are tough, that could play. Eventually, once they get this injury situation figured out, and honestly, if I'm Joe Shane, if I'm Mara, I'm investing some big time money in the offseason to figure out what's up with these injuries. Because like I said, again, players dropping like flies today. That's all you heard constantly on the telecast from Mark Sanchez. Giants player down, Giants player down. Luckily, a few of them got up, but Adoree Jackson was out for the game. That was a big loss. McLeod comes in to replace Jackson. What happens? Aaron Rodgers goes right at him, back-to-back, penalty and a deep completion. But this Giants team, again, unfazed and really remarkable. It's a joy to watch, just like that, 4-1, a couple plays here and there in the Dallas game, and this team could really be 5-0. A team that is in basically step 0 of a rebuild, just starting the rebuild, right? Cap hell, no money to spend, right? No, bad contracts, got Kenny Galladay's contract. And it's scary for opposing teams because this Giants team is finally in the right direction. Giants fans, you guys have had hell for basically 10 years, aside from 2016. Well, things are turning around, and tonight was a statement game, right? The league's not taking notice the first 3 wins, maybe rightfully so. But the league will take notice now of the New York Football Giants because they just went on what is essentially prime time, the only game slotted at that time in London, feature game, and they beat the Packers. And they did it missing a lot of their starters. I believe there was 8 starters missing for this Giants team. Improved coaching, on full display. A team missing 8 starters. Against a tough Packers team. And what happens, right? Struggle in the first half. We go into the locker room. Let's make some adjustments. This is where you see coaching. Do they adjust during the first half on the fly? Of course they do. But halftime is where they really get to sit down for 15 minutes and say, hey, this is not working. This is working. We need to do this. And this Giants team, look at some of these numbers. So the Giants have been outscored 51-36 in the first half. Giants have outscored their opponent 70-39 in the second half. And the Giants have outscored their opponent 34-15 in the fourth quarter. Finish. That should be this team's motto, finish, because as soon as the second half starts, they're after it. Once the fourth quarter comes, they've dialed it up. And it's just remarkable with the injuries and everything they faced. You go into a game with Aaron Rodgers, who, is not having the best season, but still Aaron Rodgers. And he showed it in the first half. In the first half, he was calm, cool, collective. He was slinging it. He was moving the ball around to different receivers. So really, you can't say enough good things about Joe Shane, general manager, Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, and Wink Martindale, and of course the players. These players, there's players on this team that have obviously been here the last 3-4 years, including DJ. You got to feel awesome for Daniel Jones. Everything he's been through, injuries, missing his skill players, it seems like every year. Giants being at the bottom of the NFL in offensive line and pass blocking year after year. And finally, Daniel Jones could say, I'm the quarterback of a winning football team. I'm the quarterback of a 4-1 football team. And it wasn't like, the Giants won around him. It was because the Giants won because of him and Saquon Barkley equally. So got to feel good for DJ. Saquon, another day over 100 total yards, had the huge play, the 40-yard catch, comes back after looking like he wasn't going to come back at all. A lot of people said his day was done, including myself. And he comes back and he gets the 40-yard play. And, Saquon had to be itching to get back out there. When they showed him coming out of the blue tent, he was not happy when they took his helmet away. He hears the talk about him being injured, not performing, and this looks like his year. I'm not going to lie. You pray to the injury gods that nothing happens to him or Jones. But, this looks like Saquon's year. He's not going to be stopped. If he's healthy, he's going to rock through this. And I think he'll be up for, offensive player of the year and possibly MVP. So shout out to Jones. Shout out to Barkley. Let's move on defensively. First half, not good. First half Packers basically had their way with the Giants. 20 points in the first half. It's kind of looking like it's starting to edge towards a blowout. How are the Giants going to stop the Packers? What are they going to do? There's no pass rush. Adoree Jackson goes down. DJ Davidson goes down. And credit to the Giants. They have one of the best third down defenses in the league. Did it again versus the Packers. Packers were 4 of 10 on third down. 0 for 1 on fourth down. Green Bay had, let's say, all right, they held Rodgers to 222 yards, held the rushing game under 100 yards. The last 2 drives for Green Bay, the defense just shut it down. That fourth down stop on the 6-yard line was phenomenal. When you look at a game and you look at a turning point, Giants had just scored to take the lead. Packers start driving right away. Paper cut type of drive, short pass here, short pass there, quick run here, quick run there. Before you know it, the Packers are 6 yards away from the end zone to tie in the game. And all of a sudden, this Giants defense just buckled down, deflected 2 passes from Rodgers at the line. He looked exasperated. He looked like he didn't know what was going on. And then when the Packers got it back, after a great, safety by the Giants on fourth down, a punter comes out. He runs around the end zone for a couple of seconds, runs the clock out. A very smart move by Brian Daboll. Packers get it back and can't even get the Hail Mary off. That was amazing. It was nice to see him not even get the ball off. So that's where the defense was, really remarkable. Shut the Packers out in the second half. And, let's talk for a second about Brian Daboll. You prepare your team for a tough game, missing 4 out of 5 of your top receivers. You're missing your number 1 defensive tackle, your second string cornerback. You're going on a road, semi-short week, long travel, rough first half, everything against you in the first half. And again, nothing phases this New York Giants team. Nothing. Injuries, being down, long travel, road games. Nobody told this team about a rebuild because they're not playing like it. So all the talk from the rebuild was from prognosticators, fans, content creators, and it is real. It is a real rebuild, even though it doesn't look like it. But this team ain't believing in that, and you got to respect that. And this is what makes sports amazing when you have a team that they don't know any better. They're not thinking about a rebuild. They're thinking about beating the guy in front of them. They're thinking about beating the team in front of them. They're thinking about making a play. And I think Daniel Jones personifies that. When it comes to Jones, is it the most flashy? You had the play in the first half where he has Slayton going across the middle on almost like a deep post route, across the middle. Slayton doesn't see the ball, doesn't go for the ball. It looks like the ball's thrown behind Slayton, though. And you're starting to think, all right, we're not going to score. This is going to be a tough game. And, DJ went, he had 217 yards passing, 77.8 passer rating, 37 yards rushing, lost a couple yards on the game-winning kneel down, which is nice. And listen, he did what he had to do. Barkley did what he had to do. As a Giants fan, you can't be any happier. Injuries, we've touched on it. Barkley, Adoree, DJ Davidson, we'll see what happens with that. Next week should get a little bit better injury news with Wandale. He was super close this week. Leo was also pretty close, I hear, for this week. He was a late scratch. And this Giants team will only get better as that happens, and you want to look forward, let's look forward. Giants have Baltimore coming up next week. That's going to be a tough game, even though it's at home. Giants go back home. This is going to be their, I believe, 4th home game out of the last 5 games. and you're playing a Ravens team that is not an easy matchup, right? You got Lamar Jackson, who's a super mobile quarterback. Ravens are 2-2. They're playing the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, so the Ravens could be 3-2, 2-3 when they come into MetLife. But I still think it's a winnable game for the Giants. I really do. And if you look, you look at the Giants' schedule coming up. You have the Ravens, which is a tough matchup. Then you have Seahawks, Texans, Lions, Jaguars. Now, when looking at those teams, Jaguars have played better, Seahawks have played better, Texans have not, Lions have played better. To me, those are all winnable games. And no jinx, knock on wood. Giants went on the road, 8 starters missing against Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, and won the game. So you're looking at Jacksonville, Seattle, Houston, and you could possibly see this Giants team go on a run here. And it's going to be really remarkable. It's going to be interesting. But wow, have the Giants fans been deserving of this? Haven't been to the playoffs since 2016. One time in the playoffs in the last 10 years. Brutal season after brutal season. 0-2 starts 5 seasons in a row leading up to this year. So Giants fans deserve this. Daniel Jones deserves this. Saquon Barkley deserves this. And most importantly, the culture of the Giants deserves it, because this team has culture. And that word gets thrown around a lot, but when you see the coaching and you see Dayball dancing in the locker room and you see Wink Martindale rapping with his players, yeah, that all happens when you win, but that just shows you collectively they're on the same page. And it's going to be interesting to see where this Giants team takes it. Like I said, they have a fairly, I won't say easy schedule after Baltimore, but a favorable schedule. And as they start getting players back here, it's going to be really interesting. But amazing game today. Giants go to 4-1, sitting back, seeing what the Eagles and Cowboys are going to do. Eagles in first place, Cowboys in second place. Who cares? Win the games, everything else will fall into place. And the Giants did just that today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Check out everything we're doing on Twitter, Tommy G105, Giants Country. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We're going to be here all season long. As this Giants run heats up, we're going to heat up too. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.